presumably that's how these groups got started. But yeah, it would start presumably with small talk. There are not very many problems with the church at Thessalonica. That's where the letter to the Thessalonians, it's the city of Thessalonica, so the people who live there are the Thessalonians. So the letter to the Thessalonians is just the people who are at the church that he started in Thessalonica. Now a lot of Paul's letters begin with him dealing with problems that he had. Next time we're going to read about his letter to the Corinthians, which is at the church at Corinth. They have nothing but problems that he's addressing. By contrast, the letter to the Thessalonians, the first letter to the Thessalonians, is relatively problem-free. For the most part, he was like, you guys are doing a good job. Congrats. He gives them pats on the back, etc. He's happy with what they're doing. There's only one issue that he really addresses. What is that one issue, the concern that they wrote him about, that he has to respond to?
People were dying before the apocalypse.
Yes. They're concerned that people are dying before Jesus has returned. Now, presumably this is a problem because Paul must have told them Jesus is going to come back like next week, maybe a month or a couple years at the latest, right? Remember, this idea that the apocalypse was imminent is not unique to Paul. We saw that in Mark, and then Matthew and Luke copy Mark's claims, right? When does Mark think that the apocalypse is going to come? Right, in this generation. Paul seems to have been no different. He presumably told the people at Thessalonica, Jesus is going to come back any time. His return is imminent, which is of course why you have to join up with me now. And they're like, they write in this letter and they're like, you promised us that Jesus was coming back, but one of our sisters has died. What's going to happen to her? Right? If she dies before the apocalypse comes, does that mean that her conversion was a waste? And what is Paul's response? How does Paul respond to this concern? Do you remember, Jen?
They will be resurrected.
Right. He reassures them by saying when Jesus does come back, and it probably will be soon, don't worry too much. When he does come back, those people who have died are going to be the first to be resurrected from the dead. So he doesn't say, I was wrong about the apocalypse coming soon. He just says, it's still coming soon. Don't worry, those people who have died, those sisters or brothers in the community who have died, they're going to be raised by the dead, raised from the dead by Jesus first. They will be judged, and then they'll enter the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God. So one of the things that this tells us about Paul's theology or Paul's views is that he seems to have been just as much of an apocalypticist as a lot of the other Jews in the first century, right? The apocalypse is right around the corner. You need to get on the right side, Jesus' side or whoever's side, right away, because if you don't, you're going to be screwed when the time comes. I think squish some things because I didn't want to take up more time. Do you guys have any questions about anything that I covered today, or anything that you read in the chapter that seemed unclear, or seemed interesting, or something that I didn't talk about? Jackie?
Paul was more likely to find people converted than Jesus?
That's a good question. My guess is that that the early church was probably founded just as much by Paul as by Jesus' disciples, if not more so.